Hey, peeps, it's Nisha Ray. I am here. How are y'all doing? In the US, it's been a very interesting week, depending on what side of the political spectrum you're on. For me, I'm in a good place. For anyone else that's maybe not in a good, peaceful place, I pray for you. I just ask that you find some purpose that allows you to decompress. That's going to definitely be necessary over the next few weeks. And just walk by faith and not by sight. Don't allow fear to enter your heart. And there's a lot of projecting going on. So just don't allow your emotions to consume you. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. So I did something that did catch my eye this week was as I was streaming online. I seen a lot of talk about the 4B movement. Now, if you're not familiar with the 4B movement, it's actually a movement that's taking place in South Korea. Stop, Sheba. In South Korea for women in that area, um, because they are living in some really limited conditions in South Korea. So my heart goes out to those women and I understand the purpose behind it, and it actually made me upset when I really dug into the purpose of the 4B movement. So basically, the four B's. So the four B's mean something specifically related to the Korean language. So I'm not going to try to butcher the words, but what they translate to, it means no heterosexual marriage, no childbirth, no dating, no sexual relationships. So no women are basically cutting men off on every level. And as I was like watching these videos, and I had a lot of mixed emotions because they're doing it as a rebellion towards men based off of the election decisions, and hey, to each his own. But what I started thinking about was me today, where I'm at, and my understanding of the purpose of sex and how God aligned it or created it for us, or why he created it for humans. And it made me want to talk about actually today the purpose of sex. What I have basically learned through trial and error. I honestly don't think that God allowed me to be so great. Great. He's granted me so much grace to just keep my experiences to myself. So hopefully this will like be heard by someone that may be struggling with just their overall dating lifestyle and how to maneuver through that. As far as the American 4B movement, I'm not against it because y'all basically mad because y'all abortions and the number of things that was, I guess, going to be offered from the Democratic Party. But I see it as a way for you to disconnect and do some actual self reflection to determine what type of woman you want to be in this world. So I'm going to talk about today the purpose of sex and like what my experiences have taught me. Um, a little bit of background information about me. So I grew up in a two-parent household with both of my biological parents that were married. So I grew up in a Christian, around it, grounded Christian household. Um, and so it was more about, for me, I can say I've been blessed to not have any type of perverted experiences with adults that were in my life by the grace of God. Um, every adult that my parents had me around, family members, I was never in a situation where I was taken advantage of as a young girl or a young woman. I do know women that have experienced that, but that just wasn't my situation. So I I was boy crazy. So let me start with my childhood years. I was always boy crazy, always boy crazy, and I always wanted to be seen and liked by boys, right? Um, so I was very promiscuous at a young age. I want to say I started having sex at about 12. Before that, maybe tried to do some experimenting things. Um, but the first time I had intercourse was I was about 12 years old. My mom had a specific conversation with me and told me, like, when she found out I was having sex, I can say she didn't beat me or do nothing crazy, but she was real. And she said, if you get pregnant, you're going to keep it. It's yours to keep. I'm not taking care of it. Like, it's yours to keep. So I knew then if I got pregnant, I was going to be a teenage mama. But thankfully, I didn't have that experience, but it didn't slow me down. Um, so fast forward into my teenhood, um, I my promiscuity continued. I was a cheerleader, and I never really dated anybody in school with me. I did have partners in high school, but we didn't date. So I wasn't one of the girls that had like a high school sweetheart or things like that. And most of the guys that I like were what be quote unquote dope boys or guys that were in the. I had a thing for guys out in the alternative school. I don't know. Yeah, I always had a thing for bad boys in my younger days. So, in my childhood, teenhood, I I caught my first STI. I think I was about maybe 12, 13 around when I caught my first STI. Was curable by the grace of God. But that still didn't slow me down. I was just more careful. Fast forward through teenhood, graduate high school, go to college. Honestly, I didn't really wow out in college. I did get a boyfriend in college. I wowed out after he like cheated on me. That was my first experience of like vandalism. Like I tore his car up because he cheated. And then I got real wild. And I was out here sneaking and geeking, baby. This was the time when I would take a picture of the guy's car, the back of the car with his tag number, and send it to my homegirl. So, and in college, that's when I caught my second STI. So after that I slowed down. It was like trichomonas or something like that. It was a bacterial infection, but it was curable. Um that still didn't slow me down. Get out of college, become a young adult, like a young adult out of college. I graduated college. And then I still was promiscuous, but not as much. I really did slow down. I didn't have as many partners. And keep in mind, I'm not saying anything about boyfriends, like real relationships. Like the college boyfriend, maybe we dated for a year, maybe. I don't even think it was that. But I just stayed. I had got to the point of where I was comfortable with saying I just wanted sex, right? And that's what I was going after. So young adult life after college, had some more fun. I had a phase of experimenting too with the opposite sex, and I was ashamed of it. I didn't talk about it. This is before the whole LGBTQ movement. I was introduced to that like through like pornos and stuff. So I had a thing where I would like experiment, and I just didn't ever get into it. So a young adult life. What young adult life? What did I have for young adult life? I started doing like my drug of choice was marijuana, and I was drinking alcohol, and that stayed with me for a very long time through my adult life, my young adult life. Um, and it was just kind of like not intentional. I was looking for something to feel a certain way. So that's why I would have sex. But I would still feel empty. So then I started using the drugs and the alcohol to kind of help feel the emptiness, but I would still feel empty. So I want to go back to say, remember I said I grew up with parents. So as a child, I used to always say, and I in my heart still believe this, I've never wanted children before marriage. I always wanted to get married. Unfortunately, I took the path of promiscuity because for some reason I feel like I was internalizing, I would get pregnant, we'll get married or something like that. Me sleeping with him will make him want to marry me. I had that mindset. Stupid. Um, oh God, I was so stupid. So after college, because like I got in some trouble, moved back to Charlotte, finished college up there, had my own apartment, met a guy. There's some blurs in between there, but the guy that I started like boyfriend, I guess you could say, in my well, yeah, because we got engaged, but we got engaged like after 3 months of dating. So, and he became, that was like my first, was it my first domestic situation? Yeah, that was my first real domestic situation. So of course it became violent. So the engagement was cut off. We weren't going anywhere. And after him, I met a guy, like, I had no problem meeting guys. I met a guy and we actually have kept connection like over the past 12 to 13 years off and on. He actually, that guy I met after the engagement, I recently just cut off our situationship because we were trying to rekindle something, and it was in my soul to just go ahead and cut it off because I knew this was not where I should be putting in time, and him too. And I'm gonna say more about that later on. So after the engagement, I met that guy. We never got serious. We were just messing around. After him, some other guys. And then I got into another relationship with a dude I met on Plenty of Fish. My God. That was my last dating experience from a dating app, by the way. The guy I met from Plenty of Fish. Um, and we actually had a like 3.5 year relationship. Like we moved in the houses together. His kids would come out for the summer. We was traveling, all types of stuff. Like we was serious. And his mom even said she had a dream about us getting married. So the reason I got out of that relationship was because um old habits are hard to change. And remember, I told you he was incarcerated. He had did a bid, and if you're familiar with a bid, like he had did some time, and his behaviors that the behaviors and the people he still continues to associate with, and I'm just as guilty because I was in it. Allow him to get back on the path to where he was basically about to be incarcerated. Long story short, it was a situation. People was at my house with guns and stuff, and I was terrified, and he turned himself in. And so I was able to get him out, but I knew in my head, like after I got him out, that relationship was gonna be done. And it was. So then and just so happened that happened when our lease was up. So when we broke up, we just went our separate ways. I just moved into my new area. So in this new area, I was back on my grind. I was single, had a 3-bedroom house, I was kicking it. And I had friends, right? And I didn't take, nah, I didn't want to get in a relationship with any of those guys. And this is what I learned, that I was really on the part. I just wanted sex and some companionship, but deep down, I still wanted something serious. And I was expecting the man to take ownership and lead me to it. But at the same time, I was still feeding my flesh. So after, I want to say about my third or fourth year there, because it was some guys that like actually liked me, and I could tell, but I didn't want to take them serious. And I really feel bad about it now because, like, he had so much potential, and I didn't want to break his heart. But I just couldn't see myself being with him. So after him, I started like really like, this is kind of at the time when I started rededicating my life to God too. And some behaviors, like something in me had started changing. And the type of guys I started liking changed. And I started understanding what like the term man of God meant, and knew what to look for. Um so fast forward, after I moved out that house, actually, yeah. So that, because I stayed there a long time, that I moved down here. Moved down here. and ran into two people from college that I had a situation with, and we had some flings off and on, but that emptiness was still there. So it finally got to the point to where the situationship came back. The one from 12 years ago, he came back, and we were actually like being intentional. But I felt in my heart, and I knew that he did not want to get married. He didn't want to be in a committed relationship, and that's okay. However, I could not continue, and it's not fair for me or him to allow ourselves to go through these through the motions of a relationship when we already know what we're not on the same page and trying to work towards the same goal. So a lot of like trial and error I went through to really be able to say that I was not intentional with dating. I said I wanted something, but I was doing something completely different and going a completely different route to obtain that. Thankfully, I'm in a place now where I'm content with being completely single, not attached to anything, and just allowing like God to lead me in my relationship. So I have talked on some previous videos about surrendering my life and like fully surrendering my life. Like that's where I'm at now, and it's a peaceful place. Um, so when it comes to like the women that are saying they are going on strike against men, I really want hope to encourage someone that may not be fully in that place, but they know they want something to grow and build from. I want you to be intentional with every action you take. First, put God first, and then be intentional about the time and commitments you put into the person. If you know you want to get married, if you know you want to, like, you know what you want, do not waver. Stay grounded on what you want. Work on being friends first. And all of those examples I talked about, those relationships all like was led by sex. It's like that was the first thing. Sex should not be the first thing and the only thing that keeps you in a situation. Um, those unintentional like relationships and my lack of like um self control led me to recognize like three things that will happen when you're dating and you're putting sex out of line, out of God's alignment: self destruction and like intrusive thoughts. Because like I told you, I had an emptiness about me. Then I started feeling that emptiness in with like drugs and alcohol, and I was still empty. Over time, that started messing up with my body. I started getting high blood pressure, like it's all types of stuff. So um my lack of control had me feeding myself with things that were not healthy. And thankfully, my STIs were curable. And I don't know about you, but I've been seeing a lot of commercials about a lot of medication, like around HIV and HIV specifically. But then I was looking at like the STI stuff that's going on, and I don't know why the CDC hasn't updated anything from 2022, but this says a lot about the current health environment of the U.S. right now. And it's scary, honestly, for us to be this evolved and have so many cases of sexually transmitted infections going around. It's scary. And so, like, just knowing the reason why you're dating somebody is important. Also, unintentional like activity or dating can lead to unwanted children. I know a lot. Now, I don't have any children on my own, but I have taken a few Plan Bs in my day, more than enough, honestly. And I can honestly say I heard God tell me the last time I took a Plan B pill. He said, "You say you want a child. You want me to give you this, but you're going to kill it if I give it to you." So it was kind of like, you can't pick and choose what I give you. And if you don't want to create with this man, why are you having sex with him? And that was like, ding, 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 ding for me. Like, why am I doing this? If I can't even see myself having a child with this man or trying to build something with this man, why am I even engaging with him sexually in the first place? So that's when I cut my whole journey off, or I cut my journey off towards trying to build my own life with my intrusive bad habits. Um, so I hope this, like, me opening up, because I, like I said, I don't think God allowed me to, gave me this grace for me to keep it to myself. My intention is to help somebody. I should not be 38 years old out here promoting girls to be promiscuous, because I know what that will lead them to. My desire is for me to help educate a young girl and young man, when it comes to dating, and finding true love, and trusting God that He actually has a place for that in your life, because He created you in His image. And that's a part of being a Christian and a human, is experiencing sex, but experience it through love. Don't experience it through like your own fleshly desires. And like I can say, like, even though I was what I consider to be promiscuous, I do recognize what introduced it into my life. I used to sneak and watch HBO late night. What was it called, like HBO 6 or something back in the day? Pornos. That's what introduced me to like wanting to do the whole threesome thing. Um, just and then like now, like I said, I didn't have any perverted family members in my family, but I did come in contact with older men and women that were way older than me and knew my age, but they were okay with engaging with me sexually because I was mature for my age. So it's been a lot of peeling back, and there's been a lot of digging in layers for me to understand like what got me here, and I'm not ashamed of it. So, and then the STI thing, y'all, in my state, they got billboards up on the highway in South Carolina. When you're riding out 26, it's got warnings about, like, I think it's syphilis and HIV. Big red flag for me. So that was like when I moved here, it was like, oh, I know I'm not about to be dating like out here like that. So other than that, I just hope that once again this is helpful for somebody, and for the American 4B movement. Hopefully this will come across somebody's screen that is right now in an uncertain place, but they are looking for direction on where they want to go. Other than that, y'all, keep God first and love your neighbor as yourself. Y'all stay blessed.